This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
Reboot your credit card with Apple Card, the credit card created by Apple. It gives you unlimited daily cash back that you can now choose to grow in a high-yield savings account that's built right into the Wallet app. Apply for Apple Card now in the Wallet app on iPhone and start growing your daily cash with savings today. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility requirements. Savings accounts provided by Goldman Sachs Bank USA. Member FDIC. Terms apply.
What I love most about Mi Gente is our community and how important it is to take care of our own.
Hey, it's Honey and Carolina. On our podcast, Life in Spanglish, we talk about how important being there for your loved ones is.
Pero también sobre lo importante que es tener a alguien dispuesto a apoyarte cuando lo necesites, como lo hace State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Aprende más en es.statefarm.com.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock in the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. 10 years ago this month, Frankel won his last race, the Champions Stakes on Champions Day at Ascot. Joining us today is Ian Mongan, who was riding Frankel's pacemaker Bullet Train on that historic day. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much for joining me. In this podcast, we're going to discuss your role with Bullet Train, in bloodstock terms, a 3 parts brother to Frankel in the Frankel story. Frankel, of course, won 14 races in 14 runs. Bullet Train ran in the last 6 of them as his pacemaker. I'd like to start by going back to, it's 10 years ago now, to Champions Day on the 20th of October, 2012. What do you recall about the build-up to that race?
It was huge. Obviously, it was his last race, and there was doubts whether he was going to run, being the ground being so soft at Ascot. I don't think Henry was worried about the soft ground, whether it was going to be heavy. And I think it was one of Frankel's biggest tests, if I'm honest. We knew he stayed them on a quarter well with Juddmonte, but Ascot's a different kettle of fish, really. And he was up against Sir Henry Cecil, who loves soft ground. There was a lot of pressure on everyone to get him there, and hopefully that he would run, because, Ascot was sold out, and the decision wasn't really made until that morning. But everything fell into place, partly, yeah. The race didn't quite go to plan, but it was very, I'm not going to say stressful, but kind of glad it was all over for that day anyway.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, the sort of the stresses. Frankel's races had become almost like a farewell tour. They were like events, weren't they, the last 4 or 5 runs? Yeah,
I mean, once we got the pace setting sorted out for him, when I first had my pace setting duties for Frankel, it wasn't on Bullet Train. It was a horse called Picture Editor, and the horse simply wasn't fast enough to lead him. So Frankel kind of had to go and do his own thing. But once Bullet Train and I started to do things properly, I think 2012 was the best year that we saw out of Frankel. It was great. But yeah, every time that Frankel ran, everyone wanted him to win. It was just fantastic. It was great to be part of it.
Actually, looking back now, it must be one of the most famous historic races ever run in Britain, when you think about it now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've got Bailly running now, and he's almost, he's up there with Frankel, and it's fantastic. And I can imagine what they're all going through. And Jim Crowley's a good friend of mine, and I speak to him often, and I know what they're going through. But it's but yeah, to be part of that, and when you see all the whole racing community get together for one horse, And obviously Henry Cecil as well. You know, he doesn't need any intro, does he? It was just fantastic, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, I didn't feel as much pressure as what Tom probably did, but I think in a strange sort of way, myself and Bullet Train probably eased that pressure for him in the last year that he ran.
And on race day, the 405 Champion Stakes, as you said, Cirrus des Aigles, who'd won the race in 2011. You also had Nathaniel, who'd a previous winner of the King George and the Eclipse. And Frankel then fell out the stalls. How did that affect your role as the jockey of the pacemaker?
Yeah, so that's the first time that Frankel kind of fell out the stalls. The plan was, myself and Henry and Tom sat down the night before, and the plan was, being that the ground was so soft, was kind of, you know, the first 2 furlongs at Ascot are downhill, and it was kind of just try and just ease your way down the hill rather than get into a racing sort of speed and almost try and turn it into a mile race from Swinley Bottom. And the fact that Frankel fell out the gates, it probably made my job a little bit easier, because I had to look round to see where he was, and he wasn't where he normally is, which is up behind me. So I decided just to take a pull and let Cirrus des Aigles kind of ease his way to the front. But as soon as I saw Frankel was back into the race, and I had another look just to make sure that he wasn't running too free and he was quite relaxed, I was able to go on and do my pacemaking rolls then and just sort of nip up the inside of Cirrus des Aigles and be a bit of a menace to him and control the race the way I wanted to from then, which was what it was all about with Bullet Train. It was able to control the pace of the race, which would suit Frankel. And I think Bullet Train done a fantastic job of that, actually.
Well, Frankel went on to win by 1 3/4 lengths. It must have been an emotional day as well at the finish, when you're sort of arm in arm with Tom Queally, and for both the owner and, as you said, the trainer, Sir Henry Cecil.
Yeah, it was the roar of the crowd that day was, I've never heard anything like it. Ascot is a very, very large, huge place, and it's just, the roar was unbelievable when the horse went and won. And, you know, yeah, me and Tom stood up and we embraced each other, because we knew that was the last time we were going to see Frankel. And Bullet Train, you know, he was retired too that day, you know, so it was a very nice story. It was a great way to finish. And it's difficult because, you know, no matter how good Frankel was, you'd never want him to go out finishing second or third. It just wouldn't feel quite right. And the fact that he won pretty easily. He'd done enough on that ground. It was a big ask for him, I think, even though he's the best horse in the world. It was coming towards the end of the season, and it just goes to show what a tough horse he was. He was a very, 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 very tough horse, and extremely talented, obviously. But everything went to plan, and everything did go to plan throughout the whole of Frankel's career, I think. It was just a great story.
Well, I'd like to move on a bit more to almost the forgotten horse in all the story, in Bullet Train, which a horse you know very well. As we said earlier, he was very, very well bred. He had the same mother as Frankel in kind. His sire, Sadler's Wells, was actually the grandfather of Frankel, his Frankel's sire being Galileo. And I think a lot of people forget that Bullet Train won a Lingfield Derby trial, was actually only 13-2 when he came actually last in the Derby. But he was actually a well-bred and as a 3-year-old was a highly thought-of horse.
I think he would have won a Group 1. You know? I think Bullet Train, he had the ability to win a Group 1. He just kind of fell into the role of being Frankel's lead horse at home and on the track. He was very, very talented. The thing about Bullet Train was he knew his job. You could really rely on him. But the thing with a pacemaker, you need a horse that's obviously jumps out the stalls every time. He has to be very, very quick out the stalls. Has to have a lot of talent, and he has to do that every time. And the Bullet Train was strange. As soon as Frankel come past me in a race every time, you could feel Bullet Train just kind of saying, "Nuff's now, I've done that." And he used to kind of ease up, if you like. And the first time I rode Bullet Train, trying to make the running, I went far too fast. I was 10, 11 lengths clear the first time. And I think that was the Queen Elizabeth II at Ascot, I think it was. And it was to the point where I was just useless in the race. I wasn't doing anything. Although I was 10 lengths clear, the rest of the field were just 10 lengths behind doing their own thing. So I was just pointless. And Henry did tell that to me the day after. He said I was just, there was no point in me being there. And I'd always thought that pacemakers, you rarely see pacemakers outside of a Group 1 or a Classic or things like that. And they always go flat out and so fast. And I thought to myself, there's no point in doing that. There's no point being there if people are going to just ignore you. There's no point in you being there. There's no point in the pacemaker. And that was evident when Frankel nearly got beat. It was at the St. James's Palace, I think it was.
That's when he had rerouted as his
rerouted. Who went so fast. And it was difficult for Tom because Tom had to make a decision at some point to go and try and close him down. And on that day, I think Tom would admit he made the wrong decision by trying to go after him, which he did. And Frankel, just the class horse that he is, he just held on and won 3/4 of a length. And we know he's 15 lengths better than the field. So with that in mind, after my first outing on Bullet Train, I will think to myself, I'd always saw myself as a good judge of pace in races. When I was riding in normal races, I was a very, very good judge of pace, especially like dropping horses in. And if there wasn't a lot of pace, I would challenge that. If there was too much pace, I would wait. I knew my job, pace-wise. And I thought, there's no point in me going out 5, 6, 7 lengths clear. I just needed to go out, make sure Frankel was with me, make sure he was relaxed, and then I could dictate the pace, and Tom could just go and do what he wanted to do when the time was right. And that's how we ended up doing it. But Bullet Train was great for that because every time we asked him to get out those stalls early, he would settle for me or he would pick up. He'd do everything right, and he was fantastic. He really was. And I think he enjoyed it. I think Bullet Train enjoyed it. There was no point in me going, like I said, going so fast out the stalls one day and then 3 weeks later trying to get him to do it again, because horses aren't silly. He might just start to think, well, I'm not going to go flat out here. He might just half miss the break and then you're in all sorts of trouble. But he was enjoying it, Bullet Train, and that's what made it so special that we were able, myself and Tom were able to do that all the time.
Do you remember the first time you sat on Bullet Train?
Yeah, that was Bullet Train. That was in the Queen Elizabeth, yeah.
Oh, so you didn't do any work riding?
No, I never rode him at home. No, never sat on him at home. His rider was Danny, and Shane rode Frankel, who also rode Motivator back in the day as well.
And why did Frankel need a pacemaker? Because he didn't have one as a 2-year-old, did he? It was when he became a 3-year-old he started having a pacemaker.
Frankel was so exuberant in the way he ran. He would just destroy horses. He had a lot of speed. He was very, very strong. But as he stepping up in age, he would have to step up in trip at some point. And when he won the Guineas, which was fantastic, you couldn't do that all the time. You couldn't go and make the running all the time like that, especially if you're going to step up to a 1.25 against older horses as well. But I think what happened was Bullet Train started to lead him at home, and Frankel just sitting behind him and got very relaxed and got used to it. So almost when Frankel ran in these group races, it was like a piece of work for him.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool that helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
And you mentioned earlier, Ian, picture editor. was the first pacemaker for Frankel in the Greenham Stakes in April 2011. And you rode picture editor, but reading reports, he wasn't quick enough for Frankel.
No, not nearly quick enough. No, he jumped out the stalls. I got to the front for about 2 furlongs, I think. But even then, I wasn't going very quick. And picture editor had his ears pricked and he was looking around. Tom come past me within about 3 furlongs and had to kind of do his own thing. So, yeah, picture editor wasn't the best choice, I don't think, that Henry made that time. But yeah, I felt as though it was my fault, really. But I couldn't have gone any quicker on picture editor. He just wasn't good enough to lead him.
But picture editor actually beat Nathaniel, so he was a decent 2-year-old.
He was a very decent 2-year-old, but I don't think he trained on.
A few questions about a pacemaker. How do you train a pacemaker? Any differently to other horses?
Not really. I mean, I think the pacemakers on the day any horse can be a pacemaker. Like if you look at Aidan O'Brien's when he runs in the group races sometimes, like in the Derby, they always have pacemakers. They're very good horses in their own right, but they've been used to put pace in the race. So you can send any horse to the front, especially when they've got that ability. The jockey just goes quicker than he normally would, and you make sure that he's going at a very, very good pace. But I think the thing with Frankel was his pacemaker or his lead horse was obviously bullet training, but he used to lead him at home too. And Frankel was so used to sitting in behind Bullet Train up the gallops every day and working with him. It was almost his comfort zone. He knew where he was. And the same with Bullet Train. Bullet Train knew Frankel was behind him. They go out every day together, being brothers and that. It just worked. You don't specifically train a pacemaker. You could always, if you wanted a pacemaker in a mile race, a normal race, you could use something that runs over 6 furlongs and just make that sort of do the pace. But you wouldn't necessarily train them to be a pacemaker at home. But I consider Bullet Train to be his lead horse rather than his pacemaker. I think he's his lead horse.
And Bullet Train didn't have any other races in 2012 apart from racing against Frankel. Was it any other runs considered for him?
No, I don't think so. No, he was just in. We were obviously keeping him fit and well and sound to do the job. Bullet Train was just as important as Frankel, really, because I don't think there was any point being the same owner as well. There was no point in going to try and win things with Bullet Train. Bullet Train had his job to do, and he was doing it very, very well. It's important to look after Bullet Train rather than run him every other week. But I do believe he would have won a Group 1 at some point, but I think he had a bigger role to play, which he played brilliantly. And the fact that he led Frankel so well, there was no point in risking him otherwise and not being able to turn up at the races with Bullet Train and again trying to go back to a different horse to do it. That would have been very, very difficult to do.
And those Group 1s you raced in 2012 and the Queen Elizabeth II in 2011, what do you think was Bullet Train's best performance?
Of that year, I would say probably the Queen Anne.
He came 6th in that race of 11.
Yeah, I came 6th in that. But that was for me, that was Frankel's best race. That was unbelievable. That was.
Frankel won by 11 lengths that day.
Yeah, 11 lengths and not stopping. Yeah, 11 lengths and not stopping. That was. But the closest I got to Frankel was the Sussex Stakes, actually. I think there was 4 or 5 runners, might have been 5 runners. And Henry, this was before the Juddmonte, actually, which I didn't ride Bullet Train in. I rode twice over in that. The Sussex Stakes, Henry said to Tom, win as easy as you can and, look after him, win as easy as you can, not too far. And that was the closest I got to him because Frankel was still in second gear, I think, and the Bullet Train wasn't that far behind him. But going back to the Queen Anne, that was a great race when Frankel, when he come past me, it was just unreal the way he picked up, and he just put daylight between. He made every horse in that race look pretty average, and they weren't. It was a very, very good race.
And then in August 2012, you ran against both Frankel and Bullet Train when you were riding Twice Over. Yeah, my very good friend Twice Over. Yeah, my Group 1 horse, which I had the pleasure of winning the Juddmonte on. So obviously I had to ride him, and Eddie Ahern rode Bullet Train that day. So I had to give up my pacemaking duties that day to ride the good friend of mine Twice Over. He was a lovely, beautiful big horse, and one of Henry's favourites. If not, I'd say he was probably more of a favourite than Frankel. Twice Over. He was a very, very good friend to Henry. Well, Bullet Train ran against Frankel on 6 occasions, and poor old Celebration managed five times and came second 4 times. Yeah, that's hard to take, isn't it? Celebration, fantastic horse. So much ability. Just a shame you had to bump into the world's greatest horse at that time, but someone has to, I guess. Yeah, Celebration. Yeah, because obviously I was there with the Celebration. Used to come past me too. Very good. It was that year was a fantastic year for top class horses. I don't think we've seen a year like that since, in all honesty. All the horses that finished behind Frankel are all fantastic sires. They're all great sires now. That was a very, very strong year, and it just goes to show how good Frankel was to beat them 14 times, really. And I'd like to find out what it was like to work for Sir Henry Cecil. How long did you work for him? So I was there probably about 4 years, I think, maybe 5 years. 2008, I first joined. I picked up a couple of spare rides for him at places like Folkestone and Warwick, on some fillies. And funny enough, I won on a few of them. And he called me up out of the blue one February 2009, I think it was. February, he called me out of the blue and said he wanted to be part of the team. And I was just amazed, really, because I kind of wasn't going anywhere in my career. I kind of hit that stage where I was just kind of riding not very good horses, and it was hard work and wasn't getting many winners. But Henry gave me another lease of life, and he was such a gentleman to ride for. He was so calm all the time. And I've ridden I rode sort of 16 years, and I rode for so many trainers, and he's the only trainer in all that time that you would never ever get any orders from. He would never give you any orders when I know it sounds strange, but he kind of liked his horses to be ridden in a specific way. He'd like them not to be pulling. He'd like them to be given every chance. And also, he'd rather you come a little bit wide than try and go for a run up the inside. That's what he always said. So there's no excuses. And he'd never, so 4 years I rode for him, and I don't think I ever got an order from him on how to ride a horse. It was just crazy. I think if you're riding for Henry, he gave you a lot of confidence. If you're riding for Henry, you knew you were doing something right. And it made us better riders because, things happen in races. If you are told to go and make the run in, or you're told to sit second or third, things happen where you can't do that, and you've got to do your own thing. It was just great to ride for him. You can go out there and just ride the race as it is. You know what kind of horse you're on, and you have to just ride the race how you feel fit, and it worked pretty much all the time. But he was a real gentleman. It was great. I enjoyed going up there. Twice a week I used to go up, and I'd ride a couple of lots out, and then we'd go and have breakfast. We'd always be doing a crossword, and we wouldn't necessarily talk about horses. We'd sit there and do the crossword for about half an hour, and then go and ride a couple more horses, and that was it. And we saw them at the races. But no, it was I was very, very privileged and lucky to be part of that. Part of Henry and his last hurrah, if you like. Was he the perfect trainer for a horse like Frankel? I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think he done everything right by him. I think other trainers may have took him to an arc, may have took him abroad, may have gone to America, maybe. I don't know, but I think he was the perfect trainer for him, because Frankel he wasn't easy, although he looked easy on the track, although he'd done everything very, very easy, and he wasn't easy at home to begin with, especially. And I think once he buddied up with Bullet Train, I think he turned into an exceptional horse, and I think Henry got the best out of Frankel that you could possibly have got out of him. Absolutely.
So you think he was right in not running him in races like the Derby and the Arc then?
I think so, yeah. I think every decision he made was perfect. I mean, who is anyone to question Henry? Yeah, absolutely. He's been there, done it. He knew everything there was to know about horses, about Frankel, and I think he was right to do everything. And his legacy shows, really. Frankel now he's an absolutely outstanding stallion. Now he's breaking records, and his sons and daughters are absolutely fantastic. And it's just, I think Henry he got the best out of Frankel, absolutely.
And did he have the ideal owner in Khaled Abdullah as well?
Oh yeah, he was a very loyal man and very, very good friends of Henry. He just left him to it. Khaled Abdullah was obviously a fantastic horseman himself, fantastic breeder, and he's done so much for the world of horse racing. I've ridden plenty of winners for him, obviously twice over. He just left it to Henry to get on with, and that was that.
Well, after the race at Ascot on Champions Day, Henry famously said, "He's the best I've ever had, the best I've ever seen. I can't believe that in the history of racing, there's ever been better."
I'd agree with that. Certainly a flat horse. Yeah, I'd agree with that. He would have won a Group 1 over 5 furlongs, Frankel, in his early days. He was just exceptional. He really was. The way he used to these Group 1s that he was running in, it's very, very difficult to win a Group 1. It really is. To win 12 of them, and the manner in which he done it was unbelievable. The Guineas was spectacular to watch. Funny enough, the time of the race was not the quickest Guineas they've ever been, but the manner in which he done it, he just burned them off from halfway. And watching the race, you would think it was a sort of a November cold time, looking at it as a maiden where they're all strung out on the softest ground, and that's what it looked like. He just made very, very good horses look ordinary. He was just he had some engine, Frankel, and I wish I'd have got to ride him, but I didn't. I should have put my foot down and asked, "Can I please just give him a trot, please?"
So you never sat on him at all, work riding or anything?
No, never sat on him. No, never sat on him. I patted him once over the door, and he went to bite me, and then I walked away.
So what would have happened if Tom Queally had woken up one morning with a bad cold, or had not been well one morning? Do you think that you would have got the ride on the day?
Honestly, probably not. I don't think I would have done. I think I would have stayed on Bullet Train. Bullet Train is such an important role. I think it would have gone to someone else. And to be honest, would I have wanted that pressure? I don't know. I don't know if I would have wanted that pressure. It maybe in the Sussex Stakes with 5 runners, but I might have pleaded with him, if I could ride him, but I don't know what would have happened. Let's pretend I would have, yeah.
Let's pretend you would have done.
Yeah. Of course I would have done.
Well, everyone knows where Frankel is now if you're in racing. So he's at Banstead Manor Stud near Newmarket. But where is Bullet Train these days?
The Bullet Train, well, he's in Ireland now, in Woodfield Farm Stud, and they have a website, and I had a look on there the other week, and he's got a lovely big page up there, and there's a YouTube video about him as well. I think he's doing quite well. I think they're pushing him more sort of jumps sire at the moment, but he was in Kentucky for a while, And he's sired over 140 winners, individual winners, so he's done okay. Not quite as good as Frankel, not pulling in the $250,000 stud fee every time, but yeah, I think he's doing okay. I'm not sure how much he is covering. I'd say probably 3,000-4,000 maybe. But no, he's had a successful time, and I'd like to see him again one day. Actually, if I'm ever over in Ireland, I'll try and pop down to Woodfield Farm Stud and go up and see him. But yeah, no, he's busy anyway. He's busy, and then hopefully enjoying life.
And what about yourself? You're keeping busy as well.
I'm busy. Yeah, I'm assistant trainer to my wife Laura. We have a small yard in Epsom. I've got we've got 16, 17 horses here. We have a fair share of winners, but we had obviously we won the St Ledger in 2016 with Harbour Law. That was a fantastic day. That was. So Laura's a classic winning trainer. Yeah, so we do well. We run a nice business here. We've got a good team of girls, and yeah, we're busy. Yeah, we're busy. We enjoy it. So we got a fair share of winners with what little horses we have. But yes, I still ride out now and again. Not as much as I should, but I've put a bit of weight on, obviously. Not being a jockey anymore. But no, life's good.
Well, thank you very much, Ian, for joining me. I've really enjoyed talking to you about a horse that everyone's forgotten about, really, in Bullet Train, and for sharing your memories of riding in all those Group 1s against Frankel the Wonder Horse.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I enjoyed it. It's nice to talk about good times. Yeah, it's good memories.
Hard to believe it's 10 years ago, I guess.
I know, yeah. Now I feel old.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
At Black Pack, we're building a movement to grow Black political power. We've been at the forefront of change, using the power of political engagement to reshape our economic, justice, and political system. Our dedication shines through every election as we rally Black voters to the polls, propelling leaders that represent us into office. We're building a lasting impact and a political home for our community with a commitment to Black voters that go beyond the ballot. Visit blackpack.com today.